I'm Michelle Masacchio, founder of Fit Money CPA, where vet med meets smart business. And I'm a CPA for veterinarian practices. And I've watched owners make the same gut punching mistake over and over. They hire because they're busy. They hire because they're burned out. They hire because the office manager says, hey, we need somebody else in here. And 6 months later, you're looking at that. Sorry, one of the kitties is coming. This is Ziva. So she would like to say hello to you. So back to our topic. You're looking at your payroll account and your payroll numbers, and you're just going, oh man, these are actually worse than before I hired this person. So here's what nobody bothers to tell you. Hiring doesn't fix a cash flow problem. It creates one, unless you know your numbers first. And we're going to go over those numbers today. And so if you want to drop in the comments, tell me, are you currently thinking about hiring someone? What's the position? Let's just go find out if we can. And again, I work exclusively with veterinarian practices between 1 and 10 docs, 1 to 5 million in gross revenue. That's my lane. I don't work with dentists, don't work with restaurants. I work with you guys and gals. And that's my lane, guys and gals. I've seen the full picture. The practice is crushing it. There's barely have any breathing room. And the ones that made one hiring decision that tipped them sideways. The difference between those groups almost always comes down to if they ran the math before they hired. Or if they just cross their fingers and say, I hope this works out like I want it to. So let's go ahead and run that math. And here's what happens in most practices. Again, schedule's packed, team is stretched thin, somebody leaves, or you're growing. The instinct is, let's just hire somebody, get it fixed, be done with it. But hiring somebody is not our strategy. That's just a reaction. And sometimes that reaction is very expensive. Let's break it down. Full-time hire, let's see what it actually costs you. So get a pen and paper out, get your calculator out. Let's go through this. So you're going to hire somebody, base salary of $45,000. Fantastic. We can cover $45,000. Okay. Let's think about payroll taxes. 7.65%. That's Social Security and Medicare. So the FICA taxes. So multiply the, I'll get my calculator out here. And let's multiply that. 45,000 times 0.0765 gives us another $3,400. So we're looking at, just walking in the door, we're looking at $48,443. So some of the other things that we have to think about paying, we have workers' compensation, we have unemployment, we may even have liability insurance. What about health insurance? What about when are they going to be eligible for the retirement plan, if ever? But all kinds of things that need to go into the thought process of hiring someone. Simple math, health insurance for a single person anymore, it's costing between $4,000 and $8,000. It could even go up beyond that. So let's just take the high amount. Let's do the $8,000. So we're coming up with $56,442 for our $45,000 hire. What about the time that it takes you and your team to hire this person? We got to calculate what your hourly rate is, what your team's hourly rate is, and add that, you multiply that by 40 to 80 hours of training, Add that to the base. It keeps going. Are we going to supply uniforms? What software licenses do we have to increase so this person has access to it? Do we need to add equipment? What's the actual cost of our onboarding? So when we're looking at a $45,000 salary, just salary, our cost could be any place between $55,000 and $65,000. That's a lot more than just that $45,000. So let me ask this question. What revenue does this hire generate? Or does it free up to pay for itself? So I run every financial decision through the cats and dogs system, which is cash accumulating techniques and driven outcome gains. Everything we do is about whether it moves cash flow forward or it holds us back. A hire can be a cash accumulating technique, or it can drain the entire system. The difference is whether you've answered these questions first. Do you have revenue right now? Not in 6 months, not planning to have it, but right now. A general benchmark for veterinarian practices is 40 to 50% in revenue labor costs. So 40 to 50% of your gross revenue is your labor. And so if you're already looking at a 48% labor cost, that next hire is just going to put you in danger zone. And we don't want that. We want to make sure we're keeping our cash flow going. Second question, is the hire a revenue generating hire or a revenue support? So let's break that down. So a doctor, obviously revenue generating. So, we need to see exactly what that looks like. We can tie it to production. It's a clean model. You take the average revenue per day, multiply the days worked, get the projected production. Looking at a receptionist, a CRS, some technicians will fall into the revenue producing. Our office manager, our practice manager, these guys are revenue supporting. They enable the revenue, but they don't produce it. Doesn't make it a wrong hire, just makes the math a little bit different. You need to ask, what does this hire free up in your capacity? Are you having one of your techs maybe do an admin job? That would free up the tech for more income producing positions. Question 3, what's your cash reserve? And can you sustain this hire through slow months? So our cash reserve, we've talked about the run rates before. It's how many months cash do I have on hand that I can pay all my bills if total revenue stops today? So we want to make sure that we have 60 to 90 days of cash to support that. And again, if we're bringing on a new hire, does our current cash support that new hire? Again, if everything were to stop. So let me just ask a quick question. Which of these 3 questions do you actually know the answer to right now? Drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear. So let's just talk about a real world scenario. And we have annual revenue of 1.8, and our current labor costs are at 45%. So they're at 810,000. You guys are slammed. The owner wants to hire a full-time experienced tech at 52,000. Fully loaded, we talked about that. The FICA taxes, the insurance, any unemployment, workers' comp, training, uniforms we're purchasing, any equipment we need, any software licenses. Fully loaded, 65,000. So post-hire, we would be running at 875,000. That's 48.6% of our revenue. Still within our range, but let's see if it holds up. Let's take a look at why you're slammed. Is it a capacity problem or a workflow problem? So you hired, 3 months down the road, this new tech is standing around 30% of their time because you realize that it was an efficiency problem. It wasn't a staffing problem, it was an efficiency problem, capacity problem. So you spent $65,000, your problem's not solved. Same revenue, but before the job posting, we actually did our math. And we look at, okay, what's our bottleneck? What's causing this stress? So we calculate the scheduling problem is costing us 8 to 10 appointments a day. And that's going to be coming up to $280 a day. That's a lot of money when you multiply that out. And all it took was a $300 software fix, not the $65,000 staffing that we hired. And now we're thinking that we have to get rid of that staff. So after we've fixed our bottleneck, if we figured out what the clog was, we're looking 3 months down the road, and we're like, okay, we've got our processes in order, we have our systems in order, we can now afford to hire that next person. That person comes on smoothly, everything's enjoyable, it's not stressed. So again, let's think about, let's do the numbers, let's calculate everything before we put that job posting out. We want a revenue check. Is current labor to revenue below 45? If yes, you have runway. If no, you need to grow revenue first. What type of hire are you making? Is it a revenue generating or is it supporting? And you need to model the math accordingly. Sorry, we have another kitty coming up here, but she decided not to. So look at your cash reserve. Do you have 60 to 90 days available? The true costs. What would hiring that next person truly cost the practice? If it, again, in our example, it would cost the practice between $55,000 and $65,000. Come on, Ebbs. And this is Abby. She wanted to say hi. And Abby is Ziva's daughter. So this is the baby, and she's so much bigger than her mama is. So again, we need to look at that true cost. So the real question is, have you diagnosed your need? Is it a capacity problem, a workflow problem, or an efficiency problem? Hire solves capacity problem, systems solve workflow problems, and training solves efficiency problems. Know which one you're hiring for. So here's the bottom line. You can't afford another hire when the math says yes. When the cash is there and when you diagnose the real problem, you cannot afford a hire based on a gut feel, you're burned out, or pressure from your team, no matter how real that pressure is. And she's just sitting here purring. She just loves her mama. Your job as a practice owner isn't to react to problems. It's to lead with numbers. That's why I built the cats and dogs system, to give you financial clarity to make those decisions. So if you want your numbers, if you want your specific numbers run, go ahead, drop me a DM or go to my website, fitmoneycpa.com, and schedule an appointment. Get online with me, and we can walk through all of this. And this isn't for everybody, so we want to make sure it's a good fit. So remember, you run the practice, we run the strategy,